Greetings and salutations, YouTubers. This is ZillaFan85. I'm back today with my latest video, my latest figure review. Today we're going to go ahead and take a look at my NECA 1989 Godzilla figure. So this is the last remaining of the Godzilla figures that I have from NECA that I haven't previously reviewed. The line itself for me has been kind of hit and miss with the work that they've done on Godzilla. I don't personally I find it very confusing because NECA I think does a great job with their other figure lines, their Ninja Turtles figures, their horror figures, etc., etc. So I don't know why it seems like, at least in my opinion, that they've kind of dropped the ball with their Godzilla stuff. Guess it doesn't really matter now, since as pretty much all of you know, that NECA I don't know, what was it, a couple of years ago already, that they lost the licensing to produce Godzilla figures. So, and the 89 here was among the last of the Godzilla figures that NECA released. This figure itself, it's decent. I guess you could say it's one of their better Godzilla figures. However, I don't think that they really hit the mark as far as capturing the 89 Godzilla's design. We'll get into all that, though, of course. To jump right into it here, though, and again, yes, this is from the 1989 film Godzilla vs. Biollante. So, just as with my other NECA Godzilla figures, I didn't keep the box, but I did keep the front flap that has the poster art on it. So we'll take a look at that to begin with here. You guys can see, and this, of course, is the Godzilla vs. Biollante poster. You guys can even see that, the Japanese, and then, of course, the English below it. And, of course, Godzilla at the top. And I really do love the poster art. That's one of my favorite things of these Godzilla figures is their box arts. I absolutely love them, and I love being able to have, like this poster, for example. So, very, very cool shot here from the movie poster. And then obviously the inside of the flap, which has that sort of promotional shot. Godzilla there in the water with the particles of Biollante flying off. It was supposed to be after the that initial battle that Godzilla had against Biollante in her rose form. So, but still pretty cool image nonetheless, though. But like I said, obviously the movie poster art is really, really what I keep these for. So, very, very cool. So let's go ahead. Let's jump into the figure itself here. And I do apologize, folks. Been kind of dealing with being sick here last few days. I don't know if it's like cold or flu. So if I sound kind of congested and whatnot, I do apologize. Just kind of bear with me with this, though. But let's go ahead, start with the paint and the detail. So they did a very good job with the paint and detail here, especially Godzilla's body. Now you got the signature charcoalish gray paint scheme done for his skin tone here, which is definitely accurate, definitely captures Godzilla's look very well. Of course, you can see all the scaling and whatnot done all around his body here. Taking a little bit of a closer look, you got the neck, all the scales and whatnot, and of course you got the lines and grooves in the front of the neck there. That looks really, really cool. And of course the face here. Now this to me, with this particular Godzilla figure, this is where they really dropped the ball, to me, was in the face. Now the ears, they're done nicely. You got the rivets and whatnot and the bumps on the top of his head. That's done very nicely. That's fairly signature of the 89 Godzilla. Where it drops the ball, though, is in the face here, unfortunately. It's too much of first of all, it's too much of like a softish looking face for this particular Godzilla. The 89/91 Godzilla had that very feline look, but also a very, very like mean, very tough look about him. That's why it's a big part of the reason why the 89-91 Godzilla suit is my all-time favorite Godzilla design. And unfortunately, like I said, I don't think NECA quite hit the mark there. One of the biggest issues that I have with this figure is in the eyes. Now, doing the best I can here with my lighting setup and everything to kind of showcase you guys, the eyes really do not, do not really signify the 89 Godzilla's design here. First of all, you've got all this white in his eyes there. And that's really not accurate, because when you watch the film, his eyes are pretty much all this sort of brownish, orangish color. It's like a full with, with like the black pupils and centers. And you really don't see any whites in the eyes at all. Some people said this is a little bit more signature of the 91 poster art design for Godzilla, but that's not what this figure is supposed to represent. So, and even that, I don't know that I would fully say that this really hits the mark as far as that goes there. But you guys can see, though, here, best I can show you. So you got some like the brownish color and the black dots, but then you got all that white in the eye, and that should not be there. I had been saying that since day one when they released the promotional images for this, that it made him look very off, did not capture that look properly for this Godzilla here. So that's sort of my biggest issue with it, besides the fact that there's a lot of like softish features done throughout the face as well. It doesn't really capture the 89 Godzilla's design very well. But they did do nice detail. Otherwise, you got the nostrils captured in, you got the scales on the face there. Very, very nicely done. Got the sculpt work for the teeth and the inside of the mouth. Teeth done in a sort of off tannish bone color there, as you guys can see. Definitely could have been a bit sharper, especially the these fangs, the dragon teeth there in the front. They should have been sharper, I think. But still captured fairly well. Got the dark red for the tongue, and of course the roof of the mouth. That's done fairly well, I would say. And then just kind of moving off of that, you got the dorsal spines that start here in the back of the head and kind of run down. And of course, you got the larger ones going down his back and all that up until where it runs down into the tail. And these, you got this sort of smokish, sort of like a smoky gray on the outer part of this sort of bonish color here. And then you've got, as it sort of fades in, to the more charcoalish gray in the center of the spines. And that's very signature of Godzilla's design. I do think they did a good job with the dorsal spines here. Actually, the body itself of this figure is very nicely done, I think, honestly. I really appreciate all the attention and detail that they did. I just unfortunately think they really missed the mark and dropped the ball in the face there, and it kind of ruined the figure for me, anyways. Some of you may love this figure. That's fine. This is just my personal opinion. But like I said, the bodywork though is done very well. You've got all the scales going throughout here. Again, the nice texture work done for the dorsal spines there. Really, really captured well. Painted on both sides very well, and it runs down to the smaller ones that run all along through the tail there. That's done very well. The scaling for the arms and the musculature. Then you got the hands here with the sort of off tannish, darker tannish bone color for the claws on the hands, and the claws on the feet as well. It's darker than the teeth, so you guys can sort of see the contrasting colors there. That's done very well, and they're very sharp to the touch, both on the feet and the hands. I like that, and got some nice musculature design for the chest here. Nice puffy chest, which is signature of the 89 Godzilla. So, like I said, the body work they did do very well. They just kind of, unfortunately, dropped the ball with the face. But see all the musculature and all the scales done for the chest area and the abdomen there. You guys can see very nicely textured there. Of course, you got the large thunder thighs that he's got here with all the scales and musculature on those. You got the knees here protruding, captured fairly well. And the scales run down all the way into the feet there. Again, showcasing the claws on the feet. Got the bottoms of the feet here, which have detail work on them. And then, of course, the NECA and Toho trademark information there. You guys can see that. And then, of course, on the tail, you've got all the scales. And then, of course, all the segments done for the tail as well, all throughout, up to the very tip of it, which I appreciate that they really took the time to capture as much detail as they can here, including on the bottom here. You got all the segments going along the bottom of the tail with all the scales and the wrinkles and grooves running all along the tail there. You guys can see that top there. And so overall, like I say, again, very nice paint and detail work. Again, just have the issue with the facial design, as it doesn't really hit the mark for the '89 Godzilla. But other than that, though, paint and detail is very nice on this figure. And again, you can see one more thing to point out with the tail. You can see it's a very long tail. It's one of the longest tails that NECA has produced, I believe, and it's really awesome. Definitely one of their best Godzilla tails, I would say. So very cool. Now pivoting off of paint and detail into articulation. So sorry, folks, bumping into the camera a little bit here. So to start with, the head. You've got it on a ball joint here where it joins into the top of the neck. So you can look up, not a whole lot. You can look down somewhat. You can turn them side to side. And yeah, it can go all the way around as well. And you got a little bit of tilt as well. Give them a little attitude there. That's pretty cool. Now you got the jaw, which is on a hinge, and it can actually open quite a ways. So you guys can see that there. Probably considerably more than it should open, but still, though, a nice range there. And then, of course, you can close it pretty much fully. So you guys can see that. And then the bottom, the base of the neck here, where it joins into the shoulder, is on another ball joint. And so you can add to that range of motion there. You can get them looking up like that. Somewhat, you can put it in somewhat of a swimming pose with the range that you can get out of it, but I wouldn't swear to that fully. But a decent range looking upward anyways when you move the two joints together. And then, of course, you can turn side to side as well, and a little bit of tilt there as well. And now you got the shoulders, which are on a hinge here, as you guys can see. You can get a nice little semi T-pose out of that there. Bring it back in. Now, I don't really mess with this figure too much, so the joints, as you can see, are quite stiff. But nonetheless, so you guys can see, so you can raise the arms up, down. You can get a full rotation out of them as well. Alright, so you guys can see that. Now, you've got a hinge here, single hinge at the elbow here, so you can, of course, out and in. Again, very stiff, so doing the best I can to show you guys there. And got a hinge here at the wrist, and get a nice swivel and hinge out of it there, or at least in theory you should. Mine, again, doesn't move very well. You can swivel it, as you can see, but it doesn't tend to want to hinge that much. And I have tried heating it in the past, and it didn't seem like it really helped it all that much, so kind of is what it is. Any of you that collect these NECA figures sort of know the struggle with these. So now you also have a separate hinge here for the finger joints, so you can get him to close and open his hands, just like so. So nice little added touch, which I do appreciate that. Now you've got the abdomen area here has a ball joint attached, so you can very slightly get them looking down. You can get them looking up ever so slightly. You can turn side to side, and yeah, it would go all the way around if you want to do something like that. And you get a little bit of tilt out of that. And so that's the only joint here for the torso area. Now you do have, I believe, ball joints where the thighs join into the hips here. So you can get him kicking up about that. But obviously the legs start to bow out as you raise them up like that. Now you can do a very limited split like that, but I guess better than nothing, right? Bring them back in. You get a single bend for the knee, single hinge here. And as long as you get the joint loosened up, you can get decent movement out of it. I mean, you know, it is Godzilla, so, I mean, his posability is really not going to be anything off the charts anyway, but you get decent enough range of motion there. Not too much of a swivel out of that, though, from what I'm seeing. You can get a little bit of a swivel with those. But then moving down to the feet here, got a believe a ball joint attaching the ankles to the bottoms of the legs there. So we get a little bit of motion forward and back. You can certainly swivel it though, and it'll pretty much go all the way around there. And you get a little bit, very little bit of pivot out of these. And I mean very little, as you guys can sort of see here. So it is kind of limited, unfortunately, just is what it is. But certainly what a lot of people have noted that have reviewed this figure, the best part of articulation is in the tail here. A whole bunch, I'm not going to count them, but you got a whole bunch of ball jointed segments there, pretty much all the way up until this last piece right here. So just a little bit before the end, and then all ball jointed segments otherwise. So I believe every 2 segments. So you can sort of turn, you can go like that. You can get kind of contort it and get into pretty nice ranges of motion here. So as you guys can see, you can definitely get a lot of posability out of this tail. So that's definitely something I really appreciate here. Like I said, I think this is one of, if not NECA's best tails that they've done for their Godzilla figures. Really, really awesome range of motion here on this guy. So, very, very cool. Now, I think that pretty much covers it for the articulation on him. Now, let's go ahead and let's take a look at the accessory that he comes with. And, yep, you do get a beam effect here. So, you get his atomic breath. And interesting color scheme. Now you got the bluish color, the signature bluish color for his atomic breath, and you've got a little bit of white mixed in as well throughout. It's almost got this sort of spiraling effect here. So not really sure why it would be like a spiral ray, because that's not really something Godzilla had at this point. It came a little bit later in the Heisei era, and that should have been red anyway, but still a cool effect though, nonetheless. And of course the white tip at the end of the blast, and of course the piece that plugs into his mouth right there. Very, very cool. And then show you how to do that, because this actually is just a peg into his mouth. You got the slot there at the back of the mouth, if you guys can unfortunately not really see, but I'm trying to show you best I can. But you can see there, you just got to kind of line it up and plug it in. Yep, no. I think it's like this. Yeah. And there you go. So it plugs into his mouth like so. Unfortunately, just because of the sort of design with this, it's going to be more of like the beam is pointing downward like that, so you can't really have it firing straight up. I mean, you can have him tilt his head back to get a little bit better range out of it, but other than that, though, yeah, that's probably the best that you're going to do with it. But very cool nonetheless to at least get a beam effect. That's something that lately, as a lot of us have noted, that Monster Arts is lacking, unfortunately. But as far as accessories go, that's what you get. And now let's take a look at sizing here. So, just to kind of showcase to you guys. And you can sort of see there, if you look at it. He is, I know it's a little tough to kind of make out with the way this shows up on here, but it's right about in the 7-inch range. So, I know the camera makes it look a little bit off, but it's actually right about in that 7-inch range. So, decent size. For the most part, scales in well with your 6 to 7-inch figures. And then as a size comparison, take a look at my SH Monster Arts 1989 Godzilla, which I have previously reviewed here on the channel. And you guys can see that the NECA one is actually larger. This one's more like in the 6 to 6.5 inch range, whereas this one's more solid 7-inch range. So, hence the size discrepancy there. But still very, very cool nonetheless. Again, just as, my personal opinion, I do think the Monster Arts one is the much superior figure, much more movie accurate looking figure. But the NECA one, not bad though, definitely. And as far as pricing goes, now that's the thing here, because the NECA Godzilla line has been discontinued. These figures, unfortunately, are really going up and up in price as they're becoming more rare. This one, from what I've seen lately, has been going for roughly $70 and up. And this is supposed to be, like a $25, $30 figure at release. So $70, I personally would not say is worth it. If you're going to pay that much, you may as well just pay a little bit extra and get the Monster Arts version, which, like I said, to me is a much superior figure anyway. And you can still get those at retail price, which is around $95. So to me, if you're going to pay, like I said, if you're going to pay that much, you might as well just get the Monster Arts version of this Godzilla. But nonetheless, though, if you do like these NECA figures, this is definitely a way to go for sure. Again, like I said, overall, I think it's a pretty decent figure. But I think other than that, though, folks, this does about wrap it up for this video. I know this ran on longer than I wanted. I do apologize. Doing the best I can here, like I said. And as you guys can tell, I'm still, feeling sick, so... but that does pretty much cover it. Now, I'm planning to probably take a few weeks off here before I make another video. We got the holidays coming up and all. So I'm probably just going to take a few weeks off before I do anything else. So it'll be sometime into the new year before I get another video out there. So just to kind of let you guys know in advance. But having said that, I do wish you all a very happy and healthy holiday and a happy new year as well. I hope you guys have fun, stay safe, And I do want to thank you guys so much for watching. If you would like to subscribe, please feel free to do so. If you would like to like and or comment on any of my videos, please feel free to do so as well. And just remember, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, you be good to yourselves, and sayonara.